Time to check today's mail. Let's see. Bills, insurance, taxes. Ooh, fan mail. Why don't we get into this? Dear Giuseppe, do you have any recipes that do not involve proteous and disgusting amounts of cheese and or butter? Signed, Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe, I think you know better than anyone that I don't cook anything that doesn't involve either cheese or butter. It's just who I am. Welcome back to another episode of Cooking Corner with me, Giuseppe CrimiVaroli. Today for you, I am going to be showing you how to make stuffed acorn squash. For this recipe, you're going to need the following ingredients. You're going to need not one, not two, but 3 acorn squash. You're also going to need hot or sweet Italian sausage. You're going to need olive oil. You're also going to need Monterey Jack cheese or Fontina cheese, whichever you can get. I said, yeah, let me whip it out real quick.
I'm sorry.
What about the order we discussed?
Take it from the cheese. Take it from the cheese.
Monterey Jack or Fontina cheese, whichever you can get. You're also going to need minced garlic, heavy whipping cream, sage and thyme. Wait, whipping these heavy before. Sage and thyme, and mushrooms. Baby bella mushrooms with the stem on. You're also going to need a cup and a half of already cooked rice. In terms of hardware, you're going to need the following for your recipe. You're going to need various measuring spoons and a few measuring cups. You're also going to need a large spoon and something to brush your squash with. You're going to need a large bowl for your sausage. You're also going to need a small and a large knife. You're going to need a pan to cook your sausage in. You're going to need a cutting board to cut your acorn squash and mushrooms on. You're going to need a small and a large baking sheet for your squash, as well as tin foil for your baking sheets. Moving on, step number 1, as always, is going to be, wash your hands. So you're going to start by turning your water on, sticking your mitts underneath, getting them nice and moist. Once your hands are sufficiently lubricated, go ahead, add some soap. 2 squirts is my preference. Wash that all around on your hands, get in between the fingers on the back of the knuckles. Once you convince your hands are sufficiently soapy, stick them back under the water and wash all the soap off. Once you convince your hands are sufficiently clean, you can turn the water off, flick your fingers out, grab a towel, and dry your hands off. And then we're ready to cook. Now that our hands are clean, we can move on to step number 2. And step number 2 is going to be prepare and cook your acorn squash. Now, to start this step, you're going to want to turn your oven on to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Once your oven is turned on and heating up, you can go ahead and cut your acorn squash. You're going to need your large knife to cut your acorn squash completely in half. I'll show you now. Once you've got your 3 acorn squashes cut in half, you're going to take a spoon and scoop out the goopy middles of all of your acorn squash halves. Go ahead, take your spoon, get all the seeds out. You don't really want any of the seeds at all. Then you can use the spoon to kind of scrape around where the seeds were and get all those stringy bits off. Kind of like when you carve a pumpkin. Now do that for all of your acorn squash halves. Moving on with step number 2, you can put all of your acorn squashes on your baking sheets. Now depending on the size, you may need 1 baking sheet like I did, or you may need 2. Once your acorn squash halves are lined up on your baking sheet, you can drizzle some olive oil over the top, brush it in, and then sprinkle them with salt and pepper. Once your oven has reached temperature, you can go ahead and stick your acorn squashes in there to roast for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, you're going to flip the squashes over so they're cut side down, and you'll roast them for another 15 minutes. 45 minutes in total. So go ahead and stick your squashes in there. And now we wait. Moving on to step number 3, and step number 3 is going to be cook your sausage. So what you're going to need to do is add 8 sage leaves all cut up into a pan. Then you'll add your sausage and brown it with the sage leaves. Now I'm going to show you how to cut the sage leaves. Importantly, you don't want the stems. You can go ahead and remove those. And once you've got all your sage leaves together, you can bunch them up, line them up, and just start ribboning them. Once your pan is very hot, you can add your 8 sage leaves that have been chopped up and your 1 pound of sausage. Go ahead, add your sage leaves. Mix them around a little bit. Now that your sage leaves have been over the heat for about a minute, you're going to add your 1 pound of Italian sausage, either hot or sweet. Now peel the skin off. Now, you want to cook your sausage until there's no pink left in it. And once there's no pink, you can transfer your sausage and sage to a separate bowl. Now, acorn squash by itself is a very sweet thing to eat. So you may want to consider using a hot Italian sausage or a mixture of hot and sweet instead of just the sweet sausage. Now that your sausage is all cooked, we can move on to step number 4. And step number 4 is going to be cook your mushrooms with garlic and thyme. Now, the first thing you should do when cooking with mushrooms is always wash them. Mushrooms are a very dirty thing to eat, and you have to wash them before eating them. So go ahead, take your mushrooms and wash them in a sink. Now that your mushrooms are clean, it's time to cut them. So let me show you how to cut a mushroom. Go ahead, grab yourself a fun little guy. Break the stem off, just like that. Put it down and start cutting slices. You're gonna need 10 ounces of sliced up mushrooms. Now that it's been 30 minutes, we can flip our acorn squash over and cook it for another 15. So, take them out, flip them over, slippery, and once they're all flipped over, you can stick them back in the oven. We're going to be taking these out in 15 minutes to stuff them. Continuing with step number 4, you're going to add 1 tablespoon of olive oil, 10 ounces of freshly sliced mushrooms, 1 tablespoon of freshly sliced up thyme, and 1 teaspoon of minced garlic into your pan. And you're going to cook those until the mushrooms reduce. Now that our acorn squashes were in for 30 minutes and then another 15, we can take them out and let them cool so they're cool enough to stuff. Go ahead, reach your hand in that very hot oven, grab that heavy tray of acorn squash, and put it in a safe place to cool down for a few minutes while we finish the filling. Now that your mushrooms are reduced, it's time for step number 5. And step number 5 is going to be finish your filling. So, you've got your pan with your reduced mushrooms in it. What you're going to do is add 1/3 cup of heavy cream and 1.5 cups of cooked rice, as well as 1/2 cup of fontina or Monterey Jack cheese. You're going to want to stir until it's fully combined. Once you've added your heavy cream, rice, and cheese and mixed it all together, you can reintroduce your sausage and sage and mix it up again. Once you've reintroduced your sausage, your filling is done. Now it's time for step number 6, which is going to be stuff your squash. Now, take your filling, grab it in a spoon, and put a big heaping spoonful inside your acorn squash. Press it down a little bit. And once you're happy with it, you can sprinkle a little bit more Monterey Jack cheese on the top. Do this for all of your acorn squashes. Should be enough filling to fill all of these, so. An important thing to note is that you should have the right amount of filling for 6 halves of acorn squash. Your acorn squashes should be a little overstuffed so there's a dome of filling. Once you've stuffed your acorn squashes, they can go back in the oven for another 10 minutes to finish cooking. This is the final bake. I say, this tray is very heavy.
It's got a lot on it.
Now that our squashes have finished in the oven, it's time to take them out. Woo! These are looking delicious. Time for the final step, which is going to be plating. So go ahead, get your tongs, make sure they work. Then select your acorn squash from the 6 you've prepared. This one looks good. Grab it, lift it, and put it on your plate. And just like that, you're plated. Now it's time for a little taste test. So go ahead, grab yourself a fork, and go in for a little bite. Make sure you get some squash and some filling in that bite. It's a little hot. Yeah, that's probably fine. That was delicious! That concludes this week's episode of Cooking Corner with me, Giuseppe CrimiVaroli. I hope you like this recipe because I love it! If there's something you want to see on the channel, leave it in the comments below. I'll try to make it for you. If you like this video, leave a like below. If you like videos like this, subscribe and turn on that notification bell. Until next time, bye-bye now.